Before I mix up my honey and water for my mead, I'm going to get my yeast started because it takes about 15 to 30 minutes for it to work with the yeast nutrient. I'm going to use a product called Go Firm, and I typically mix it at a rate of 1 gram of Go Firm for every gram of yeast. So I'm going to add 10 grams of yeast, so I'm going to use 10 grams of Go Firm. And it is supposed to be mixed with 17 milliliters of water per gram. So I have here 170 milliliters of distilled water, and I'm going to add in the Go Firm. All of the equipment here has been sanitized prior to me adding the yeast and nutrient. I'm going to use 2 packs of yeast. Give it a good stir. This water is at room temperature, so you don't need to heat it up, and it is distilled, so I don't need to boil it before I use it. Okay, that's all I need to do. Now I'm just going to let it sit for 15 to 30 minutes while I mix up my mead. I'm going to mix up my water and honey, but before I do, I want to make sure that I hit my specific gravity. So for every gallon of water, I'm going to start with 3 pounds of honey and see where that puts my specific gravity at. Honeys all have different sugar contents, so wherever you get your honey from, you'll want to check it each time. The easiest way to do it is just 1 gallon of water, start with 3 pounds of honey, and see where that gets you. All of this equipment has been sanitized and cleaned prior to. I have my honey and water all mixed up, and I ended up needing 4 pounds of honey for every gallon of water, and I have a specific gravity of 1.100. I actually ended up using about 3.5 gallons of water. The next thing I'm going to do is add the nutrients in. Honey doesn't have a lot of nutrients, so in order to get the yeast to work and perform at their optimal, you should add some nutrients. So I'm going to add in some DAP, diammonium phosphate, and it's 0.5 gram per gallon, so I'm adding in 2.5 grams. And then I'm going to use a product called Make Mead, and this is 1 gram per gallon, so I have 3.5 gallons, so I added 3.5 grams. Dump that in. Give it a good stir. At this time, it's a good time to really stir it up and get a lot of oxygen in the honey and water so that the yeast have a lot of oxygen to get started. Okay, and that's all mixed. Then finally, I'm going to add in the yeast and the Go Firm that I mixed about a half hour ago and get it started. Give it a good stir. And then add my lid. Of course, sanitize the lid before adding it. Pop it down. And then fill my airlock with sanitizer. Now I have to watch this carefully for the next 7 days. So I'm going to add what's called a staggered nutrient into this. So tomorrow I'm going to stir it, and the next day I'm going to add another dose of the DAP and the Fermade K. Then I'm going to stir it the next day, and then after that I'm no longer going to use the DAP. I'm going to use the Fermade K and the Fermade O. Follow along with me as I do these every day. I'm on day 4 of my Mead Nutrient Addition. Now today I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to add Fermade K and Fermade O. I've talked to several professional mead makers and they say that the addition of Fermade O instead of DAP on this day helps with a better mouthfeel and flavor, and also helps with fermentation to make sure that it doesn't get too hot when it's fermenting and cause off flavors. So all I did is I had Fermade O. I'm making 3 gallons of mead, so I added 4.5 grams of Fermade O and my regular addition of Fermade K, which I'm doing 4 grams. It does say on the instructions for Fermade O to mix it with a little distilled water, so I did that. It does not say how much water, so I just did a couple of tablespoons of distilled water. Now all I'm going to do is just add them both in. Sanitize my stir stick and give it a good stir. And when I'm all done, I'm just going to pop the lid on and make sure that my airlock has some sanitizer in it. I'll be back. It's the final day of primary fermentation with the mead. I've been monitoring it very carefully, and the specific gravity right now is at 1.010. So I'm going to transfer it into the carboy and add some sorbate and metabisulfate to stop fermentation so that I have a nice sweet mead when I'm done. I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm finished transferring it, and I left a little bit of space in the top to give me room to stir up the extra ingredients that I'm going to add. And I also just poured a little bit extra into the 1 gallon jug so that I could top this up all the way to the top. So I've already sanitized my stir stick, and I'm just going to add the 1/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfate to help kill off any leftover yeast, because I do want this mead to be sweet. So I want it to have a final specific gravity of about a 1.005. And then I'm going to add the sorbate in. This is a 1/2 teaspoon per gallon, so this is a 3 gallon jug, so I'm adding 1.5 teaspoons in. Kind of fun to watch it foam up as the yeast get killed off. Leave my mead nice and sweet. So that's why I wanted to give it room so that I could stir it up, because if I would have filled this all the way up to the top at the very beginning, then it wouldn't have time to, well, it might actually overflow now. I think I'm going to get lucky. I got lucky. So that's why you want to leave a little extra space and put some leftover mead into another sanitized container so that you can top up when you're done. So I'm going to give this a good stir now. Let that die down a little bit. And I'm going to let these bubbles die down a little bit, and then I'm going to top it up all the way up to the top and put the stopper on it. All right, I'm all done stirring. The foam has died down, so I'm just gonna top it up with the mead that didn't quite fit in. This is going to sit for 2 months. I am not going to touch this mead. I'm gonna put it in a corner and let it sit for 2 months. And it will clear out a lot more than this. And then after 2 months, I'm going to just transfer it into another carboy and clear it at that time. So this is gonna take a nice long winter nap. And I'm going to come back to this about a month before the Super Bowl. I'll be ready.